Welcome, friends. This is Brevity Sports, coming at you from our caves where we talk major news in major sports. Here with my co-host, Big Z, and myself, Fredo Lay. Welcome, everybody. We are back. It is another episode here with Brevity Sports. We are so hyped. We're so excited to be back with you. Hopefully, you made it through those episodes last week if you're a big fantasy football player. If not, don't worry about it. We're right back to our regular programming tonight. We're talking NFL. We're talking Pac-12 going bye-bye. And then we're talking some MLB because the MLB, dude, I'm loving watching these games because I feel like some people maybe thought we got off the MLB train because we were talking about some fantasy football, but I am fired up on baseball, bro. Fired up.
Yeah, I mean, what the people don't know is that we are baseball nerds. And we're just going to continue as the playoffs get closer. We're just going to continue to dive deeper into the baseball season and everything that's happening. I love it. The playoff races are heating up. So yeah, man, it's going to be awesome. Pumped, but yeah, glad to get on a normal schedule night and talk about all the rest of the sports world, baby. So let's do it.
The rest of the sports, Brevity Sports, we talk major news and major sports. That's how we do it here. Listen, major sports, dude. I know we just said this, but I'm watching so much freaking baseball, and I just gotta say, if you're a Braves fan, you're hyped right now. If you're a Braves fan, you're on top of the world. If you're a Cubs fan, we're gonna get into this later, but if you're a Cubs fan, you're on top of the world right now, right? You're just so hyped. Right. If you're an Orioles fan, you're saying "Free my boy." We're gonna talk about that later. We got Free my boy. We got all sorts of fun stuff coming at you later tonight. Don't you worry. But jumping right in with the NFL. First things first, Big Z. First things first. What's going on with the NFL? We got to talk about it. The boy Rodgers, okay? Yeah, he just continues to impress. He just continues to the latest maturity we've ever seen in somebody's career. And I did hear a valid point. I was listening to the footballers, and they were discussing how one of the reasons he treated Love so differently than Wilson is that this kid was drafted to replace him in Green Bay. They drafted him to be his replacement, whereas in New York, he came in to replace the guy that they drafted. And so maybe it's just a little bit different of a mindset, but still, with the Aaron Rodgers we've seen in the past, his ability to joke around. I was watching a clip today where Wilson was like, I got to wear no sleeves because the guy who's in front of me doesn't have anything to show off. And Wilson's like, oh, or not Wilson. Rodgers like, oh, okay. He's playing around with him, calling Sauce Gardner his best friend. It's just a side of Rodgers that I haven't necessarily seen before. What do you think about this, Big Z?
I love it, man. I was watching a little bit of the Jets and Browns preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, and Aaron Rodgers was being interviewed by Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. And that was probably the most mature I've ever heard Aaron Rodgers be in an interview. He was very professional, saying the right things, but sounded also very happy. It sounded like his darkness retreat really just rejuvenated him, and that he figured out he had a clear path of what he wanted to do with his future. So he sounds happy, makes me happy, and it also makes me happy for Zach Wilson, because Zach Wilson, as of right now, most people in the NFL world are labeling him as a bust, right? He was the number 2 overall pick, and he just has never lived up to the hype, no matter how good of a roster that has been put around him. He really just hasn't done it. So it gives me hope that when Aaron Rodgers goes in a couple of years, that, if he keeps on the same trajectory as he is right now, that maybe he can be a starting QB. I think it really gives Wilson confidence that Rodgers is able to coach him, and gives him confidence that he called that play where he threw that 52-yard bomb in the preseason game. Yeah, it's just a preseason game. It's game 1. It's a Hall of Fame game. Barely anyone watches it.
Still huge.
The fact that Rodgers is the one who called that just has to give him a little bit of an ego boost. And it also shows that Rodgers is invested in his growth as a player, and that he's invested in being a leader on the team, which is huge, because we haven't seen that from Aaron Rodgers in the past. He talks down to his young guys, about his young guys. He hasn't really been that leader, that leadership guy in the locker room. And now he's showing he's evolving into the next step into his career. And, he could really care less about calling plays on the sideline, but the fact that he did it, it just shows that he's really growing as a leader and as a person on this team. So I like this Aaron Rodgers, like this version of him. I'm really excited to see where the Jets go this season with this type of Aaron Rodgers, because it's just completely different. I didn't think this would happen. I don't think you did. Most people thought like, this guy's just a joke, but it's really cool, man. I don't know how you felt about it, but to me, it's a cool evolution. There we
Evolution.
go.
Found
Mitch is in my head right now. So evolution. Of
Mitch is in your head, dude. He's still in your head from last week. Listen, I said it. I can't walk back on my words right now. I already said it. I already said what I thought about this guy. I thought this was not going to work. I didn't think in a million years this thing was going to work. I thought it was going to fall apart. I thought there were too many rookies. Look, you look at a guy like Christian Watson, who was going off last year. He makes like one bad play. What is it? After the game, I think it was Aaron Andrews interviewing Rodgers and says, like, what happened with Christian Watson? He's like, hey, if he wants to catch touchdowns, he's got to learn to run the right routes. Like no sympathy, no like, hey, we're still getting on the same page. You know, this guy's very young. No excuse made for him. Like right now he's talking about like Sauce Gardner's my bestie. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Maybe it'll change when they're thick of it, when they're under fire. Once they start, if they lose a couple games or things start to go awry. The problem is that in that narrative, even the narrative of them losing games, like the Jets are still going to be a great team. 100%. They're going to be a good team. You look at that defense. I said on last week's episode when I was rating out the NFC's or the AFC's best defense, I think they're up there. I think they have a chance to be one of the best defenses between their two cornerbacks. The pressure they can bring to the quarterback. And they talk about guys they have behind them, like Breece Hall. You know, they're in talks now, but I think Zeke Elliott. Like they're talking to multiple names to bring in to shore up. They already got Michael Carter, who's a capable back. They have all these receivers, Garrett Wilson, right? They have all these capable gentlemen who they can, you know, put together. Now, if Aaron Rodgers is going to be that leader, and like you said, he's building them for their future. All of a sudden, somebody like Wilson is earning that respect. Somebody was saying, if they bring somebody in here, I'm going to make it so hard for them. I'm going to go after them. But it's showing his maturity. He's willing to sit under Aaron Rodgers. He's willing to sit and listen. This is the best possible situation for Wilson. He's got a great quarterback that he's listening to, that he can learn from. Right. It's the perfect situation for both the Jets and for Aaron Rodgers. I love it. I hope they keep going. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of rooting against anybody. I do think, you know, Aaron Rodgers, let's see what happens once the season gets going. But I think as long as they're winning games, I think all is going to be fine. If they start losing, maybe there'll be some trouble in paradise, especially when you have Hard Knocks floating around your camera, you know, cameras in your face constantly. All of a sudden things kind of start to get ugly. But outside of that, I think they're going to be just fine. I'll tell you who might not be fine though. Dallas, man, there is some videos coming out of Dak Prescott throwing interceptions. I think he threw something like 3 more today. Video after video. We're filming this on a Tuesday night. I know we filmed this later on in the week, but I know there's some guys out there who are like, oh, who cares? You know, just practice. This is where they got to go get those reps. They got to make it. You know, try that throw, try this, try that. But again, Dak is not a rookie. Dak's been in the league a few years now. So the idea of like, try these throws. Right. Like he should kind of know the throws that work at this point. And when you're getting picked off this much, as for me, I don't know that it builds confidence in the season that you're about to have, Big Z. What do you think about this?
Well, it's also not like this is the first day of practice. Like this is day 12 of training camp.
Yeah.
Like they have 3-4 hour practices. Dak is the franchise guy. Jerry Jones threw 50 million, whatever it is, dollars at him per year. He gave him the bag, and this is what's happening. Like, I give props to Diggs for calling him out, for blasting him on those videos, for just saying, like, you know, like they say it's playful talk and that they're just getting under each other's skin just to rally each other up. But I think that there's some underlying issues here. Like, Dak, it looks like Dak kind of came into this training camp just a little too passive, just thinking, hey, like this is my job. I have it. I'm going to just turn it on once the season starts. It doesn't happen like that. Like you have to play guys like Diggs week in and week out. And Dak's not the guy he's not a vocal leader. He's a very quiet guy. He's a kumbaya guy. And nothing wrong with that. But when you're struggling and you still don't take accountability for those struggles, a guy on the other side is going to make you take accountability or at least call you out on it. And that's what Diggs did. And I think he's trying to make a statement like, look, dude, you're the leader. If you don't do well on the field, we're not going to win games. And we're tired of being perennial losers. So you need to step it up and figure it out. Like, you need to stop throwing picks. And I don't know. I love it. I think that's what a leader should do. And I love Diggs for calling Dak out. And I really hope that Dak listens, because he should be better than this. Like, this is practice, dude. Like, what happens when you play against the 49ers in week 5? Like, what's going to happen? So I don't know, man. If you're going to throw picks in the regular season, like, then that's when people are going to start turning heads and like, you're not the guy. Like, we're going to have to move on from this. So I like it. I like what Diggs did.
I think the biggest problem for Dak Prescott, I think you just touched on it, something so key, when he said he came into training camp passive. This team is too good to be losing. If you looked at the team they had last year with Micah Parsons, Diggs, all these guys that are good on defense, they got pressure. It was one of the best defensive teams in the league, hands down. The way that they just keep getting ousted, interception, overthrows. You look at it, fire and lightning. We talked about it. All those teams are successful with 2 backs. That a big back in Zeke Elliott, who's still very capable of getting it up the gut, had a fantastic year last year for them for what he is and his age. Pollard, lighting up the sideline. CeeDee Lamb, open routes, right? Gallup, all these guys. They have, like, we talked about it again. Last week when we had Jason on, we were doing our draft, and I was like giving some praise to these Dallas players. It really is kind of sad when you're drafting player after player. It's like, dude, I'm taking Pollard top 3. I'm taking Lamb top 3. You're looking at all these various Cowboy players that could be top 3 in offense, and they do have a lot of pieces, including their defense, who's one of the top defenses in the league. And yet nobody thinks they're going to win a Super Bowl. And that central reason is Dak Prescott. Totally. If he is their quarterback, I do not think they're going to win a Super Bowl. And so I think a guy like a Diggs, who's over there intercepting Dak Prescott, I think he's going into camp like, look, dude, you need to be the guy. You need to start maturing. You need, like, our window is now. Our window is not tomorrow. Our window is right now. And I honestly think, I'm going to be honest, when you look at that backfield, I really do think they got worse this year. I think missing Zeke Elliott is going to hurt them. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying, like, what? Come on, Zeke is not that great. Pollard's better, every down back, blah, blah, blah. Pollard is not a big guy. He's not that dude that's going to be able to run up the gut. I mean, he's smaller than Eckler, for crying out. Like, he's not a big dude. He does not have that. He does not have that durability. If you think this is going to be a 4-down back that's going to run up the gut and run it through the tackles, that's not who you have here. You have a guy who can get around the side. This is why Reggie Bush never quite amounted to what he was in college football, because in college football, he could just run around everybody. And granted, Reggie Bush still had a great career. I'm not trying to take a crap on Reggie Bush for no reason. All I'm saying to you is that Reggie Bush was not the dude in the NFL that he was in college, because he had to run around the gut. The guys who have success, real success in the NFL as well as in college football, are the guys that can run it up the gut. They can run around the side. They can do both. If you're a one-trick pony, if you can't run it up the gut and all of a sudden defenses kind of sit back, they can kind of rush you on the outside. I don't think that they got a whole lot better. I think Cook does help them. I think he's probably a better secondary option than Gallup. But again, if Dak is your guy, I'm not a believer. And I think that's the issue they're running into right now already in training camp. I think there's guys who are not happy. Nobody's happy losing the way that they did. Look at the Bills. Look at the problems that they've caused. I think the Cowboys have maybe been a little bit more quiet and private about it than the Bills have. But at the same time, still, you have to believe there's some guys over in that Dallas camp that are like, dude, I am tired of losing. What do we got to do? I'm tired of losing. I want to win games. I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to wear a ring. That's what it's all about. And I'll tell you, a team who's, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, one bright side, at least you're not this team we're about to talk about. At least you're not the Cardinals. I mean, how bad is this team going to be? I don't know if you saw a recent video that came out where they literally showed them like hiking the ball for like 30 minutes. It just seemed like, okay, point this way, point that way, point this way, point that way, audible. And then bang, hits a defender in the back of the head. I mean, it looks like this is going to be a dumpster fire, Big Z. What do you think about the Cardinals? I mean, right now they're 32 in the power rankings. Do you over, under? What do you think, dude?
I think over, under 3.5 wins, and I'm taking the under. They're a bad team, man. Like, and it sucks. Like, because when Kyler Murray's right, he's a good quarterback. I'd say he's an above average quarterback. He's not great. He's not Mahomes, but he can get the job done. He has led this team to the playoffs.
Right.
Like, that's saying something. Like that in the NFC West, like with a stacked Niners, a stacked Rams team.
Right.
That's saying something that you could have led this team to the playoffs. So, but without Kyler Murray, and even when he does come back, like he's coming off a torn ACL. You have a brand new coaching staff. You don't have DeAndre Hopkins anymore. The best weapon you have on offense is James Conner. And nothing against James Conner, but the dude is washed. Like he's done. Like the Cardinals ruined his career.
Snap.
Like he's an 8th round pick in fantasy, in my opinion. He's not a guy who's going to lead a team like a Josh Jacobs, like a perennial running back, CMC, Eckler. So yeah, I agree with it. I agree that they're going to be number 32. I honestly think that low key they're trying to tank. They're trying to get Caleb Williams from USC. I think a 2-win season, a 3-win season probably gets you that number 1 draft pick. And they're probably going to be looking to move on from Kyler Murray. It's going to be a sad, long season if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan. So I'm sorry, guys. I truly am.
100%. And I know you can listen to the footballers and like they're kind of high on Connor. They still have ranked as like a later back, at least to their credit. But the way they talk about him, you could absolutely tell they're Cardinal fans. I mean, he's
not the worst running back in the league, but he's not what he was in Pittsburgh. And he's definitely not what he was even 2 years ago in Arizona. Like he's just he's been used so much, like, and it's nothing against him. It's just like, that's all they had. When Kyler Murray was out, like Colt McCoy would just have to hand the ball off to him and hope that he would get 3 or 4 yards because the offensive line was so bad. So yeah, man, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be really rough for them. So I agree.
And now the biggest problem
power rankings.
And now the biggest problem for them without DeAndre Hopkins, there's nobody spread it out over the top. I mean, Hollywood Brown, he's a very capable receiver, but if you can't hit him, what's it going to matter? And he's not DeAndre Hopkins. Look, I like Hollywood Brown, but DeAndre is known for his hands. He's been one of the elite receivers in the league for a long time. So that's kind of, all of a sudden, if you can pin your ears back and just rush at Connor, it's going to suck. It's a lot, look at the Rams last year. They went from being a Super Bowl champion to very bad, very terrible in a quick hurry because what? Cooper Kupp went down. Before Cooper Kupp went down, he was dominating. His numbers were way ahead of Justin Jefferson in terms of at least fantasy and yardage, in the real game. So again, when you lose a guy like that, it's going to impact your team. I'm not trying to compare Hopkins to Cooper Kupp by any stretch of imagination, but at least when you have a top tier weapon, it does, teams can't just pin their ears back and come after you. So I think I agree with you. I think the age of James Conner coupled with the terribleness of the team, I think you're in for a long season. Long season. Big Z. The question that has to be asked, we're looking at some other guys, right? Football. Josh Jacobs still didn't have a team, right? He's still floating around, still doing his thing. Jonathan Taylor has actually left camp. He's actually gone. He left. Big Z. These guys, they got to be, for me right now, I'm not picking either of these 2 guys in my top 10. I'm just not doing it.
I'm not picking these guys in the first 2 rounds as of now. Like Josh Jacobs, there's reports that he's going to potentially miss multiple games, that it may be a Le'Veon Bell situation where he sits out the whole year. You don't want that. You don't want any part of that as a fantasy football owner. Jonathan Taylor, he left camp to rehab his ankle. Like that's a bad news. He's not even holding out. Like he left camp because he's so upset with Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, because of some comments that he made about running backs, and Taylor thought it was aimed at him and all this stuff. And I would not be surprised if he was traded. He did request a trade, but Irsay said, no, we're not going to trade him. But as the season goes, I think the Colts are probably going to trade him, especially if he doesn't want to show up, because you'd rather get him something for him in return, because I believe this is last year of his contract.
Yeah, this is last year of his contract. So you got to get something.
So you got to get something. I would not be surprised if him and Jacobs don't show up at least for the first few weeks of the season. So if you're talking about fantasy, stay away from these guys at least through the first 2 rounds. And then depending on when you're drafting compared to how soon the season starts after that, then you can, if there's any updates, then you can kind of base off your decisions off of where you draft them based off of that news. But yeah, man, like their talents, they're great when healthy, but yeah, right now it's a bad situation for both. And also, especially with Josh Jacobs, you're talking about fantasy fallout, repercussions of him not being there. that hurts Devontae Adams, that hurts Jimmy Garoppolo, that hurts every single offensive weapon, including also their defensive fantasy value as well. Because if Jacobs isn't there to just take carries and to keep the ball on the field, like Jimmy G is it's gonna be harsh reality for him. So yeah, be careful, guys. Be wary.
We've already talked about it. Especially if you're a Raider fan, like this has to be just the worst news ever. Like we talked about it here on the podcast. Jimmy G is not going to go out and win you a game. Look, he's a great game manager. If you have a great offense, like Shanahan, he knew his role, he knew what he had to do, and he went out there and he did it. But in terms of going out there to win you a game, going out there to get it done, dude, he's just not that guy. He's going to dink and dunk all over you all day long. But if you don't have a guy like Josh Jacobs behind him who's like running the ball and doing it, like, man, you are just going to be in a bad way very quickly. I don't know. I don't know if there's any bright side for the Raiders. I agree with you. If you're doing a top two rounds, first 2 rounds in any fantasy football draft, those players need to put up for you guaranteed. And the idea that both of these guys, it's a very real reality. They could both sit out, right? We don't know all the inside. No matter what the insiders are saying, you got to go with the facts of right now. And the insiders saying, oh, Josh Jacobs is probably going to play. Start of the year, the fantasy footballers talking about, oh, he's probably going to play at the start of the year. Right now, he's not going to play. You got to move forward with what we know, because all of a sudden, if you spend a second-round pick on this dude and you pass up a guy like Garrett Wilson, look at the guys who are going, especially we talked about it in our fantasy football draft. You look at the guys who are going that early, you will miss out on one of the only top-tier receivers if you're wasting picks in the first 2 rounds. I'm with you, Big Z. I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm waiting. Deshaun Watson, meanwhile, I called it during the draft. That guy's moving up. So if you're a Deshaun Watson guy, it seems like more and more people are jumping on the Browns. More and more people are jumping on Nick Chubb. You're probably going to have to go get this guy. He's still somewhere on the 8th. So he's still got great value if you think he's going to be something, but you're going to have to go get him.
That's a steal, man. I think at 8 for him, that's huge. Like, don't forget, guys, in 2020, before last year, you know, he was off the whole year prior, 2021. But 2020, he threw for 4,823 yards, 33 touchdowns, and only 7 picks. He was a top 3 quarterback with the Texans. And don't forget, that's not even his rushing stats. So in his rushing stats, he probably 750 yards, another 5 touchdowns on top of that. This guy's a stud. And he finally he's been able to be with the team the whole offseason. He went to all the OTAs. He's been great in training camp. And when you couple him with Nick Chubb and all those receivers over there, and they've made that offensive line really good for him to protect him, round 8's a steal. So if he's there in round 8, go get him. But don't reach for him in a round 5. But I think in round 8, that's going to be good for you. And that's a potential league winning move right there for sure.
Round 5, you're looking for like a Justin Herbert, maybe Trevor Lawrence if he falls there. Justin Herbert, I think, is going pretty close to the 4th and 5th. I know Justin Fields is going right there in like the 4th or so. Right. So yeah, you gotta. This is the guy that gives me safety. He makes me feel safe. If I do miss those guys, I don't mind to go get me a Deshaun Watson. I think he's gonna have a great year. Amari Cooper is an automatic with fantasy football. And one last guy that is moving up. He's moving up. We already knew he was going to move up when he started going towards the end of the 2nd round. Sometime even making it to the 3rd in very early draft situations. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's a dog. He has all the names memorized, the dudes who were drafted before him. He's got unarguably one of the largest chips ever assembled, ever like glued together to place on his shoulder. You know what I mean? Like some guys will like put like a little crumble on there, like a little piece of a chip. Like Amon-Ra's got the whole freaking bag of Doritos just sitting on his shoulder. Like he has the biggest chip on his shoulder. He's got everybody's name memorized. He's going to go early. You're going to have to go get that guy probably early 2nd round. I love him though. I would take him over a lot of pieces in our draft. I think I took CeeDee Lamb over Stephon Diggs, which I think is a very unpopular move to a lot. I know a lot of people like Stephon Diggs. Amon-Ra for me is another guy I would contemplate, but you're not wrong taking Stephon Diggs. I'm just not a big fan of what's going on in Buffalo. I also hate the snow. So that's where I'm at.
Right.
I don't know. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Moving right along. We got the bye-bye Pac-12. Cue the sad music. Cue the sad violin. Cue the little fingertip violin that you see on SpongeBob. Listen, I can't believe this. I can't believe the Pac-12 is dead. We're talking about the great John Wooden, right? Like we're talking about just a dynasty at moments, right? USC, right? Pete Carroll,
the Coliseum,
Liner, the Coliseum. Like, we're not even talking that long ago.
USC, the rivalry game. You're talking Oregon versus USC in the Pac-12 championship games. Back in the day when it was the Pac-10. Like, man, like, it's sad, man. It really
sad.
is. It just imploded like quick. Like, there was
Fast.
rumors of this, and then obviously we knew USC and UCLA were leaving in 2024 to the Big Ten.
Right.
But the conversations, like, it started this last week about Oregon and Arizona and ASU leaving, and then the next day it was done. And now Cal and Stanford are going to be reached out to by the ACC, and so that leaves a few teams left, and like the Pac-12,
it's over.
It's gone, and it just shows you. And one of the reasons why, well, really the main reason why is it comes down to money. They just weren't able to sign a deal over $20 million annually to stream their games. When the rest of the SEC, the Big Ten, they're getting, $80 million.
$31 million, dude. Yeah, per team.
Yeah,
per team.
And
that was one of the lesser. That was one of the lesser. SEC's like, you're right, around 80 million.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is 20 million for the whole league, for the whole season. And it just shows you that not too many people care about football on the West Coast anymore. Like, it's just not a big thing. Stanford's really fallen off the map. Cal is really fallen off the map. It's really just Oregon, USC, and then sometimes UCLA. So it really sucks. But it just shows you how important football is to the media, the sports world. It really does, because you really don't see, people aren't really talking about it right now, but the repercussions this is going to have on all the athletes for all the other sports is going to be huge. Football, they're used to the non-conferences, right? They're used to traveling those non-conference schedules, going back and forth across the country for one game. But no one's thinking about baseball. No one's thinking about soccer, lacrosse, all those other athletics, the sports. No one's thinking about that. This is going to take a toll on these athletes going cross country multiple times a week to play these sports. It's going to be big, man. And like those guys aren't making a lot of money. Like, they're not bringing in all the NIL deals. It's all the football players. So it's really sad to see. But it just shows you how much money and greed have really taken over the sport of college football at the end of the day.
You know what? Honestly, like, more of like a local thing when I thought of this, as I was like looking at this, and before I even looked at the numbers, before I read all the stories, before I looked at like the Pac-12, I thought of, in recent history, how many times I've been invited to attend an SC game or a UCLA game. And in the last couple of years, I've gotten more invites to go to those games and been surprised when I get there. They're still packed out. A lot of games are still packed out, but not all of them. And it's not packed. I don't know when last time you went to like an SC game or a UCLA game. It definitely wasn't packed all the way to the rafters. Like, once upon a time, dude, that was prime. Every game was sold out. Every game mattered. Every game. It was like, dude, we wanted the pride. We wanted all the teams there. And so you could see something going on. And it really shows as well. I mean, these poor other college sports, man. I mean, it's obvious that college baseball is not as big as, college football. It's obvious that college basketball probably does compete a little bit more, but I would say college basketball is a little bit more used to it. They have March Madness every year, so they're kind of used to getting on a plane, flying around. They're going to have to travel a little bit more, obviously. Even them, though, they're going to have to travel a little bit more, especially more regularly, especially with how many games they have. So that's going to be a lot more rough on them. But when you look at what the Pac-12 going down, it's just sad. It's just sad. It really was a storied franchise. It really was a storied, it's just a bummer. It's almost like your childhood, what we grew up with, even, go back years. It's just gone. It's gone. It's sad to see, and it is sad. And I think it does have a lot to do with greed. And I do hope all the teams succeed. I hope they do great. I think you're crazy. I will say this, and this has nothing to do with the Pac-12. I think all the teams wanting to join the SEC are crazy. I do not understand the desire to play Auburn and Alabama like week in and week out. Like, I do not grasp this, but money. But I will say, we said this, you and I talked about this a couple of years ago. We said eventually there's going to be two conferences in college football. It may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow. Eventually there's going to be two conferences in college football. And at the end, you're going to have a big tournament, East versus West. And that's what's going to happen. Mark it, chalk it up. It may not be East versus West. It may be, divided up by these two conferences. But it's exactly what's going to happen. That's what's slated to be. So believe me, the Pac-12 might have been one of the first. It is certainly not going to be the last. Moving right along over to the sport we love so much, and it has killed us to not talk about it for the last couple of weeks. We had so much to talk about in football. It's just the way it goes. Just like when March Madness comes, you better believe we're going to have a March Madness only episode. It's going to be here on Brevity Sports. We can't wait. We love us some March Madness. We're terrible. We probably will make the worst back brackets ever, but we're going to do it. It's going to be fun.
Look back, guys. Look back in March. We did one and we sucked.
We were wrong. To put it lightly, we were wrong. Listen, first thing we're going to talk about is apparently the MLB is also the UFC. I don't know if you saw this. Tim Anderson puts a tag down. Dude gets knocked out, Big Z. What'd you think of this? This is wild.
I loved it. I loved it, man. I loved Jose Ramirez. So Jose Ramirez got a double. He slid under Anderson, and I don't know if Anderson said something wrong to him or if he hit him somewhere where he shouldn't have hit him. But dude got pissed. Jose Ramirez got pissed, and they threw off their gloves. Umpire tried to get in between them, and he was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna let these guys do it."
And it's rare. It's rare in baseball to see actual fit. Like there's a lot of shoving. There's a lot of moving of piles, but to see somebody like drop the hands and then see a haymaker over the right,
and
it was
Anderson,
like, oh my God.
You know, Anderson was like, he tried to get in some jabs, and then Ramirez was like, "Nah, bro, here's my right hook," and he just got him.
From the streets, homie.
Laid out. And then I love after the game, I love Jose Ramirez's agent posted a tweet of Jose Ramirez on the field one day with 2 boxing gloves on, and just that was it. Like no caption necessary. He just posted that, and it's funny. I guess that Anderson is kind of a dirty player, and that Ramirez has been telling him that for a long time. He's like, "Hey, you need to knock that stuff off. Like you could end some guys' careers by what you do to them." So he had enough of it, and it was time. And good for Ramirez. Like, hey man, I didn't have any brothers growing up. Okay, but I had some of my best friends were my brothers. But when you had to, get something across to them, that was how you did it. You do a little fight for 10 seconds, and like that's how you got things across to them. And maybe this is a wake-up call for Anderson. Like, dude, stop doing what you're doing. Stop messing with people's careers, as Jose Ramirez said. Like, Jose Ramirez is a very respected player around MLB circles. Tim Anderson's career has gone just down, 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 down. So, like, maybe you should listen to your older brother here, okay?
Started off as a stud, and all of a sudden the White Sox were sellers yet again. They were in the playoffs last couple of years, and now they're sellers again. That's all you need to know. Anderson just needs to step up, both as a leader for his clubhouse and as a player. Apparently, when I saw the same thing, I was like, dude, this guy's not just going to drop his gloves for no reason. Actually throw blows. Anderson probably said something or did something. I'm not going to lie. And if he didn't, one thing led to another. Anderson's had multiple altercations with multiple people, some not his fault, some are his fault. At the end of the day, though, when you're in enough altercations, somebody at some point is be like, hey, there's one common denominator here. Let's figure it out.
Exactly.
So, be a better clubhouse leader for your team. You don't want to be getting scrapped. You certainly don't want to be getting knocked on live TV. Dude went to sleep. It's never a good look. But, hey, I mean, you took one to the chin.
It's pretty funny.
Oh, you know who else took one to the chin? Orioles management, specifically the owner, specifically about, dude, I cannot believe this story, Big Z. Fill the people in on what's going on with the Orioles and their announcers. Let them know, Big Z. Let the people know.
Yeah, I want to play the clip for you guys.
Brandon Hyde has felt like this has been maybe the toughest ballpark to play in, but the Orioles have a chance to do something special today. They've already clinched at least a split in the series, winning 2 of the first 3, and they could pick up a series win behind Tyler Wells today. It's been a minute. The Orioles split a 2-gamer with the Rays in June. They had lost their last 15 series here at Tropicana Field. You have to go back to when our now colleague Brad Brock picked up the win in the series finale, June 25th, 2017, the last time the Orioles won a series here at St. Pete. Already got 3-2 at the Trop this year after winning 3 of 18 the previous 3 years combined. It is a stark difference, Ben, and it is not a bad Rays team. It's not like all of a sudden the Rays became slouches in the American League East. They've led this division every day, but now 2, and the Orioles once again are back alone in first place.
But it's a bad look. It's a really bad look, especially because Kevin Brown, he's a really good announcer. He does a lot of games for ESPN. He does a lot of games for big other outlets. So this is like a young, upcoming announcer, broadcaster for the Orioles. Like they could probably lose him to another team or another big outlet in the offseason.
Right.
And it's especially it comes at a terrible time because your team is doing so good. Like you rebuilt this team from they were nothing. They were the bottom dwellers of the league, 100 plus losses, a few seasons in a row. And now they are first place in the stacked AL East. And then you're going to August and this happens. You're getting all that bright light from you guys from the media. And you're going to put this dark light on you guys, this dark cloud, the shadow on you. Like it just looks really bad. And I don't want it to take away from what a great job the Orioles front office has done for this for that team. A lot of times owners get in the way, they get in their own way and they make the team look bad when in reality, like this has nothing to do with the players on the field. This has nothing to do with the front office. I really hope he comes back on Friday, like they said. And I hope that the owner comes out with a statement saying, look, like I messed up. It's my fault. I need to look at myself in the mirror and I need to be a better man for it. So it's terrible, man.
It's a horrible look. The Orioles, it's not a secret. They've been a laughing stock of baseball for like a long time. Like they're finally good. They're finally putting together a great season. This is not a secret. This is not a surprise. It doesn't make any sense why you'd suspend him, especially he's such a coveted announcer. It'd be like the Dodgers suspending Joe Davis. Like he already has other options. Everybody loves him. He'd immediately get another job offer. And I think that's the biggest part is I don't know if the Orioles owner just thinks like, oh yeah, I'm bigger than baseball. I'm bigger. No, he will get another job tomorrow if he so chooses, but he's being a class act. He's staying with you. Do the right thing. Apologize. Get over this. Let's move past it. Make it about your club because your club is playing some great baseball. They, however, are not the only ones. There are some really hot teams. The Braves took over. It looked like the Rays were never going to be caught. It looked like at the start of the season, nobody was going to catch the Rays. The Braves now have the best record in baseball, and we've talked about them before, talked about how great their team is. But I'll tell you a team that has surprised some people that is right now, I think they're either chasing down or in a wild card spot, is the Chicago Cubs. You got their guy. They got their guy, my old boy, still my boy, rooting for this guy, batting .330. Cody Bellinger leading the way. He was the player of the month last month. He's a dog. His defense shines the light in center field. If you've never had a chance to watch this guy play, you are missing out. This guy is absolutely incredible. Big Z. The wild card race is heating up. What do you think about these Cubs?
Man, they're playing some inspired baseball. Like I think it starts with Marcus Stroman. That guy's a dog. Their pitcher, like there was a lot of rumors that he was going to be traded at the deadline, but they just turn it up. Their offense, I think, scored the most. It scored in like a week span since like the 1800s or something like that. And they're just coming together at the right time, man. They're playing really good baseball. The ownership, trusted them. They didn't sell the team off like a lot of people thought they would. And they're just playing like they want to make the playoffs. And this is why the expanded playoffs are so beneficial for the game of baseball. Yeah, they're in the NL Central. So, them playing this well would allow them. They are actually in the hunt for a division crown right now. But the fact, if that weren't the case, they still have a chance to make the wild card. So I think this is awesome. I think it's great. You want the Cubs to be good. It's like the Dodgers, the Yankees. Like this is one of the clubs. Like baseball needs the Cubs in the playoffs. Like it's just Wrigley Field. It's just a great look,
magical
for the game. And so the Cubs being here, Cody Bellinger, like you said, to be able to revive his career, shut all of his haters up, all those stupid Dodger fans that said he can't play anymore. Finally, he's allowing himself just to be free to be himself, playing great defense and actually hitting the ball like we know he could always do. It's great to see. I love it. So I'm super pumped for them. You can never really hate on the Cubs, so I'm pumped.
They're one of the darlings of baseball. They've always been a good club. It's always good for them to be a good club. They've really struggled the last couple of years, but historically they've been decent. They had a curse for years. Took them forever to break the curse. They came close a couple times, but yeah, and they are, by the way, in the playoffs. It's wild. You see, San Francisco right now, Phillies, and then the Cubbies. But I mean, the race is heating up. Right behind them, you have Cincinnati, the Reds, who are tied right now with the Cubs. So, they'd have to probably do a play-in game to even find out who's going to be that wild card spot. Miami playing a good brand of baseball. Arizona has fallen out. They're 1.5 back. They just actually lost to the Dodgers, so I think they might be 2 out of it. The Phillies and San Francisco are +3, so they're both putting together a stellar year, including San Francisco. Good for them. And then, of course, the Padres are now 4 games back. But again, when you look at a team like the Padres, like the Mets, who paid all this money, and yet they're chasing a team like the Cubs, and honestly, 4 games back feels like an absolute chasm with the way that these Cubs are playing baseball, the way that they're getting around the diamond, the way they're playing good, hardworking team baseball. If you're on the outside looking in, man, I mean, we thought the Phillies were done early on. They're killing it. Trey Turner still hasn't found it. And at some point, you got to believe Trey Turner is going to be Trey Turner. At some point, he is going to find it, right? So the Phillies team is only going to get better from here. I mean, if you're on the outside looking in, including these Diamondbacks, got to be feeling a little bit nervous because these 3 teams, the Giants, the Phillies, and the Cubs, they're playing good baseball right now. I don't see them, going under 500 the rest of the season. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Big Z.
I think the only hope you have if you're a Padre fan or Diamondbacks fan is that you most likely have games against the Giants going forward because they're in your division. So you kind of, in a way, hold your own destiny. Like, you have to still win when you're not playing against them. But if you're within striking distance and you run into them in a series, like, you kind of control that destiny, right? Like, you're either going to beat them and surpass them in the standings, or you're going to fall even further out. So, and actually this year, there is no play-in game in the wild card. So I think they're going to do what NFL does now, and it's going to be based off of like or division record or league record or something like that. So, that makes those games even more important, those divisional games, right? So, there's a lot of moving parts here, but like you said, you're going to have to play probably like 700 win percentage baseball if you're the Padres, if you want to make even the wild card, because the Cubs, the Giants, the Phillies, they're just winning and winning and winning. So it's fun to watch though, man. Like it really is. This is the best time for baseball. August and September are really fun, watching these teams just kind of scratch and claw their way into the wild card. It's a blast.
It is so much fun, and I mean, if you'd have told me at the start of the season that the Mets and the Padres weren't gonna be in the playoffs, I would have called you a liar. I'll be honest with you, I would have called you a liar. I was like, no, come on, that's a hater take, And we had some fun with it. We'd probably talk some mess, but man, I would have told you that's a hater take. And on the flip side of it, Tampa Bay finds himself the first wild card seed, which honestly just sounds weird. The Orioles are playing such a good brand of baseball. They don't seem to be cooling off at all. Credit to them. Ignore your owner. Keep balling, Orioles. Keep balling your fans. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Houston, of course, 1.5 behind them. I'm sorry, four or so behind them, but 1.5 in. Toronto is the last spot, but Seattle's keeping it close by 2 games. What's interesting to me about this is the Yankees, Boston, and the Angels. So the Yankees are 4.5 back. Boston's 5 back. The Angels decided not to be sellers. They're now 7 back. AL race isn't nearly as tight to me as the NL. I mean, outside of the Mariners, I don't know. The Yankees seem so dysfunctional. Aaron Boone just can't seem to stay in a game. He just keeps getting tossed. Boston they let's be honest, they sold some of their pieces, right? They were sellers at the deadline. They got rid of some pieces, made some captures. So it looks like maybe they're targeting next year. I think they know the writing's on the wall that even if they make the playoffs, it's not going to be them this year. So you look at these teams, Big Z, first, who's catching your eye, right? And second, what do you think about this Angels team not selling and now all of a sudden being 7 out of it?
Well, first off, if any teams are catching my eye, I think it's the Mariners. They've won 8 out of their last 10. They're almost 10 games over 500. They're playing really good baseball. They just beat the Blue Jays a couple weeks ago in a series, best 2 out of 3. So they started the season slow. Like, they got a lot of pieces in the offseason. People picked them to be second place in the AL West, not the Astros or even the Texas Rangers. Like, people picked them to be there to competing for that division. So now those pieces are finally fitting together. They're playing good baseball. They're being confident in who they are, who they know they can be. So I have my eye on them. I don't know if they play the Blue Jays as much, but to, surpass them, directly. But I really am enjoying the way that they're playing. Julio Rodriguez is a great young talent, and he's piecing things together now and starting to do well. When it comes to the Angels, man, we all said it was a mistake by not trading Ohtani.
Big
and
mistake.
They went and got Giolito, who is 0-2 with a 12 ERA since he came over with the Angels. They got CJ Cron, who's hitting 209. They got Grando Grichuk, who's hitting 230 or something like that since they got him. The pieces are just not working out, and now they look even more foolish than they did before. And this is just classic Artie Moreno. This is exactly why we were begging him to sell the team. And we were so happy when he announced he was selling the team. And then when we all screamed at him and just yelled in anguish when he said, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm not selling the team. I'm going to win a championship and I'm going to take over LA. Like, now, look, Shohei Ohtani, dude, last week, they were up by 2 runs against the Mariners in the top of the 9th inning. And the Mariners hit a grand slam. And Shohei Ohtani pitched that game. He threw 4 scoreless innings. He hit a home run. He had a stolen base. He did everything that he could. And after the game, there's a shot of him in the dugout just tearing up. Like, what more can I do? He's asking himself, probably asking Mike Trout, asking his family, his friends, like, what more does this man have to do? Like, the Angels are just, they're not going to re-sign him. Like, there's no way. Like, this is one of the worst collapse in MLB history, to be honest. This is just what the Angels do. But losing 7 in a row after being buyers at the trade deadline is super embarrassing. And Artie Moreno really, you're talking about bad ownership. Like, this guy, at least the Orioles owner, allowed his front office to do all the talking, right? He really didn't get involved, right? And at least how they got the team together.
Right.
Moreno needs to just take his hands out of there and let his team do the work, because the way he does things is not good. It's super embarrassing. And to be honest, he just needs to sell the team, because it's sad. You're going to lose Shohei Ohtani. Just be a complete reload. Trade Trout, trade everyone, and just reload, retool, whatever you need to do, because it's done. It's over.
They're going to lose everybody and get nothing. That's the worst part of all this.
Exactly.
You had a chance again this year to get something. The Mariners were open to it because they were ready to make their playoff push, which they're already doing. And could you imagine that team with an Ohtani? Like you talked about it right here on this podcast. Right. That would be a great fit. That looks like they might make the playoffs. And you were 100% right. They'd be making a push right now. But instead, the Angels are watching themselves fall out of contention. And again, you're 7 back. It's over. It's over. I don't want to be that guy. And there's still a month left of baseball. It's over. There's something like 20-something, 30-something games left. It's done. If you're 7 games back, it's done. Okay. Right. And the Blue Jays, the teams in front of you are too good. If you're maybe a game back and you're one of the hottest teams and you're coming on strong, yeah, you got a shot. But again, much like the National League, when you look at these teams, the way they're playing ball, the brand of ball these teams are playing with the Giants, the Phillies, and the Cubs, you're not going to catch them. The Blue Jays, the Houston Astros, and the Tampa Bay Rays, they're just not going to fall that far. They're just not going to fall that far. It's already over for you, Big Z. This has been a fun episode. Say bye to the people.
People, as always, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. If there's any topics about any other sports. Messi's been killing it, by the way. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. He has like the 7 goals already since he's joined MLS.
Crushing it.
We knew it. I mean, everyone else knew it, but yeah, if there's any other sports you guys want us to talk about, let us know. But baseball is heating up, guys, and it's post trade deadline and we are all about it. So just keep your eyes and ears open for all that baseball talk and more NFL and all that fun stuff. So we love you guys. Appreciate you.
Keep talking to us. Keep hitting us up. We love it. We will talk about most anything you want us to talk about in terms of the sports world, and we are here for it. So ask us any questions on Instagram or Twitter at us all day long, Brevity Sports. We love you, and we'll end this episode, as we always do, with a very simple Thank you for listening.